Just to offer some context, even though I cover a lot of politics and diplomacy and inside the Beltway stuff, two of the organizations which I've covered for the last 30 years have been the American Association of Physicians of Indian Origin and also the Asian American Hotel Owners Association. And these two organizations are arguably the brand organizations of the Indian American community here in the US. And today it's a pleasure to have Dr. Naveen Shah, who's seated over there, one of the co-founders of AAPI. And today's conversation with Jagruti is going to be amazing because she is next year going to be the first ever woman chairman of AAHOA. And just to put it in context, I remember when I first went to cover AAHOA, they were just a small bunch of hoteliers. And like AAPI, started AAHOA because they were fighting discrimination. They were not even being offered fire insurance. And as everybody else knows, they were derogatory called the Patel Motels at the time. 10 years or a little over 10 years, I remember the first few years when these big franchisors would be looking down upon them and treating them very shabbily. Maybe about 15 years ago, the guys were falling over themselves to come and from small little gatherings at economy lodging places, these guys were now in huge convention centers. And but for quite a few decades, Jagruti, AAHOA was essentially very patriarchal in a lot of ways. Could you talk to how someone like you got into leadership as a woman in AAHOA?
Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, I want to say thank you to you and thank you to the organization for inviting me to speak here. And I also want to say thanks to all the men who are in this audience because it is really important when you are doing any kind of women leadership conference to have also men involved in this conversation. So, first of all, thank you, and it truly is my honor to be here with you today. So, AAHOA, as you said, started 30 years ago, and the basis of the AAHOA organization started was because of the discriminations that we were experiencing, just like AAPI. And I think this was important. So, my journey started with the association 8 years ago, and I'll just kind of go back so I can kind of give you a little bit more information exactly why I joined the association and what is the mission for the association. So, I grew up in India. I'm from Surat, Gujarat. And I grew up in India, and one thing I remember, and this is really important, what I'm trying to tell you is, especially my dad, who obviously living in India, Gujarat, and having 3 girls and a boy, sometimes a lot of men feel, or parents feel that, wow, having girls is a burden, and having a son is a better way to go, right? But I will tell you that even 30 years ago, in 1980s, when my parents were raising us, it was the one thing my dad always told me, that Jagruti, whether you're a boy or girl, you have the same opportunity in the world, so don't ever be afraid to work hard and follow your passion. So when we came to the United States at age 15, my parents and we worked really hard. We bought a grocery store, and then age 19 we purchased our first independent hotel. So being in the hospitality industry, I quickly realized that there were so many outside influences that were affecting me as a hotel operator and an owner. On a political side, just example, right? There were so many regulations happening, so I knew that I needed to be involved in the association. I became an AAHOA member. When I started joining the events, when I was going to the events, I would see a room full of men, and I would see like 2 or 3 women in the room. So I've always been very socially active, very community involvement, and that comes from my parents because they've always taught us to give back. It's not just about making money, but it's always going back and making sure you're taking care of your community. So when I saw that, I said, well, there is a need for something change in this association because I know there's a lot of members, and a lot of them are male members who are decision makers, but also as a woman, I know that they're in operations, they are doing all the work in the hospitality, but they're just not getting the recognition because they're not shown as a leader in the organization, leader in their business. And I truly saw that, so I decided to join the board. now in AAHOA, when you join a board, you have to run for an election. So I ran for an election. I won the election in 2011, but my position was to increase women's participation and also get them engaged. And so we started doing a lot of town halls and town hall meetings throughout the country, trying to find out what women wanted and needed to thrive and compete in the industry. Because a lot of the women were doing operations, but were not really coming in the front. Even though they were decision makers, they were not coming in the front. So we started providing all these educational tools and everything. So when we started doing women's conferences at AAHOA, the women's focus group at AAHOA, and now we're at the point that in this year, in 2018, 40% of all AAHOA members are women, and they're active, they're participating, they are making decisions. Example, in Washington, D.C., we have women's conference at the convention. We had 862 women attending at the conferences. So I know that work for the women of AAHOA is being done. It's not just me, there's a lot of women who are participating for this initiative to make it happen. In 2015, when I was a board member, and this is also 30 years of organization now, and we've done tremendous job. We have so many second and third generation leadership coming into organization, and it's been a phenomenal change in all aspects. But when I saw also that there was not a diversity in the leadership positions, I mean, every single position of leadership were all male. And when I had a conversation with my family, and I said, listen, this is my passion, and I think they know how hard-headed I am also, and I said, it's my passion as long as I have support from my family, because I also have 2 small children, and I know the time commitment will require. So I had to get everybody's buy-in, and I did. My in-laws, my sister, my dad, mom, my husband, my kids, everybody, we had a big conversation. I said, this is something I think I need to do it, and it's not for me. I want to do it for the women in the industry, and I want to do it specifically when I saw my daughter, for you, because the struggles we're going through right now, I want to make sure that you have 1/10 of struggles that what I have to go right now as a woman. So I ran for election, I won the position as a secretary. I've been in the position for 3 years, and next year in April, I will take over as the first chairwoman of the largest hotel owners organization in the world, and I'm proud of it.
Just to interject a bit, there were some amazing pioneers of AAHOA. And just to give a little context, a lot of these pioneers at AAHOA were a lot of Gujaratis who were 3rd generation, who had come from Tanzania, from Kenya, from Uganda. And I've been to East Africa many times, and the Gujaratis, 2nd, 3rd generation there are amazing people, they're very unassuming, very simple, but guys own steel mills, and when you think of the millionaires and billionaires here, they are sort of chuta-muta guys compared to guys over there. But, and there were guys like Mike Patel, Mukesh Patel, Jasmukh Patel, the Rana brothers, etc. Mike Patel, in fact, was telling me at one time, one of the best things that happened to me was that Idi Amin kicked us out. And he was, in fact, supposed to be in UK for a long time, and he probably would have played for the English football team, and then they came. But for a long time, AAHOA was dominated by the male first generation immigrants who had come here, both from India as well as from some of the East African countries. Did it help that you were a Generation Xer, and there was the younger generation which was coming into its own, had been to schools like Cornell and others, done a lot of hospitality and hoteliering, and instead of going really horizontal, you all were able to go vertical and also assert yourselves and then come into your own and also change the mindset among the older generation?
So I will say that, listen, we must never forget how the organization was started. It was started with these amazing people, just like Dr. Shah here, who started, a founder of API. We had some amazing founders of the association. So none of us who are here on the 2nd or 3rd generation would never forget the legacy that they have created for us. Because I'll tell you that if you leave it to somebody on 2nd, 3rd generation to start something, it's very difficult to do, right? To start something, starting a foundation, starting an organization, starting an association, it takes a lot of work. So the amount of work that they have done could never be forgotten. That is 100%. But what has happened in the last 10 years in an association that a lot of the second, third generation came into the hospitality. In the beginning, they were feeling like, hey, maybe hotels are not something for me. I don't know if I want to clean rooms. I don't know if I want to, because that's what the mentality was that parents were doing, and that's a fact. The parents, when they came 30 years ago, 40 years ago in America, they had to do all that. They had to clean the rooms. They had to do housekeeping. They had to do front desk, every single thing. So when the second and third generation came in to hospitality, they saw it. They were given an opportunity with assets, saying, "Hey, now how are you going to take these one or two motels into a Marriott's or Hilton brands or Four Seasons hotel, right?" So when they came in, they started to see this as a bigger picture. They took these assets from their parents, and now a lot of our members own Marriott's, own Hilton's, and they are building the full-service hotels. When that started to change 10 years ago, we started to see a leadership change also. So we do have a lot of second and third generations, male and women, in the board. Right now, out of 32 board members, we do have 5 women on the board also, which was never would have been a case, I think, until second and third generation. So it has shifted the mind thinking. Yes, we are very much involved in on political advocacy. We're very much involved in education. We're very much involved in the community. We're very much involved in the association of all aspects. But I think the second and third generation kind of broadened the horizon. Because I think of our first generation, we were like, okay, this is our organization, keep it close, don't let anybody in, this is us, and that was it. But now we're recognized in industry throughout the country. It's not just AAHOA, it's not just API, it's literally, we're in New York, we're in San Francisco, we're in Texas, we're on all the different panels, and it has happened because of the shift in leadership. But I think it's, we also must never forget what our founding members and all of our past chairmen have done for the association to carry the legacy for this second and third generation.
Earlier this year, you were the first AAHOA member to testify before a congressional committee. Can you talk to that? And also in terms of what your priorities are going to be as you take over next year as the first ever woman chairman of AAHOA, in terms of priorities, and also talk to some of the politics behind it. There is a perception that AAHOA has been more aligned towards Republicans because of course, not just fiscal conservatism, but because of the regulations that people tend to always perceive that the Democrats have imposed, things like the ADA, the American Disabilities Act, and things like that. Can you speak to your congressional testimony, and also what your priorities are going to be as chairman of AAHOA when you take over the reins? And also in terms of some of the political activities you all have been doing, because I believe you all have a pretty powerful political action committee, which is pretty well funded.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think Danny just walked in. I saw him in a glimpse of my view here, if you can stand up. Yeah, there you go, there you go. So he's actually one of our members. Thank you so much, Danny, for also inviting me here. He's in our government affair committee in AAHOA. So yes, it is actually a huge part of what we do. Like I said in the beginning, one of the main reasons I joined the association just as a member before I did anything else was the stuff that were happening on the laws and regulation side in the hospitality industry, right? I'm running my business day to day and not realizing there is a $5 hotel tax coming in. There is an ADA lawsuits happening. There are some other things happening on tax reform side, right? I was completely unaware. So AAHOA does a huge impact on, and they are truly the voice of the hospitality industry. As far as the political action committee, we have a really strenuous a process where we have elections. We have somebody saying, hey, we want to give a PAC donors to this Republican or this Democrat. By the way, AAHOA is not saying they're all Republican or all Democrat. AAHOA's policy is to make sure that they are giving PAC and promoting candidates, they are pro-business. I mean, that's simple as that. So as long as they're pro-business and as long as they fit all of our criteria on what AAHOA is looking for, then AAHOA is happy to help on that side. In 2014, one of the biggest issues, and maybe some of you might be aware, NLRB came out with the Joint Employer Act. and I don't know how many of you are aware of this situation, is that basically it affects every single business owner. So if you're a McDonald's franchisee or KFC or hotel owners or anything, basically what they said is that, example that I'm a hotel owner and I own a hotel, but I have my franchise agreement with the Marriott. And I took a loan, I pretty much took all the responsibility, all the liability, and all of a sudden I'm putting a force that my partner is Marriott, which was taking control as somebody who is independent owner. So this was a huge issue for the franchisee and franchisor model, and this regulation was going to pretty much diminish everything that we have worked so hard for over 100 years. So I had an opportunity to testify from the United States of Congress, and I took that challenge because I said, you know what? These are all the representatives who's going to be sitting in front of me who I voted for as an American, right? So if I have an issue, they need to hear what are the issues, because you will be surprised when you speak with this congressman or congresswoman, they don't really know the whole story. Like, they're voting on stuff based on one or two things, and that's pretty much it. So when you're speaking in front of them, and this is not just about testifying, but when you're going to DC or when you're going to your local fundraiser in your local area, we need to be very proactive and talk about our industry, talk about what is happening in our industry, because some of this stuff about tax reform, about the Joint Employer Act, they really are not familiar, and they'll be the first one to tell you that they're not educated enough even to make those decisions, but they have a power to make those decisions. And that's the area that we need to really focus on. So when I testified from the United States Congress, yes, I was very blunt. I told them pretty much that this is what my story is. These are the reasons you should not pass this law. And you know what? Under the Trump administration, whether somebody agrees with the administration or not, but I think that was a one rule that was very positive, because it could have destroyed a lot of work that business owners who came to America, and a lot of us who come to the United States as an immigrant without anything in our pocket and build our business, took our liabilities. And this was one of the regulations was going to diminish everything that we worked so hard for. So it was my honor to do it, and I'm glad that we're in a stage that is hopefully is going to be ruled out under this current administration.
Thank you very much, Jagruti. I wish you all the very best, and here's to a great tenure. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.